Hello everyone, it's me, Dieuhan, once again. Today I want to share with you a very special story, a day I will never forget because I found a crucial clue about my biological parents. It all began on a peaceful morning, just like any other. The sun hadn't fully risen yet. The air was still chilly, and dew clung to the grass along the roadside. I woke up earlier than usual, feeling strangely restless, as if I had a hunch that something was about to happen. I asked Dieuhan to come with me to a small canal about 100 meters from my house. I carried a large plastic bucket, while Dieuhan held two red plastic basins, the kind we usually use to rinse rice or wash vegetables. We walked slowly along the edge of the bank, occasionally bending down to peer into the water to see if anything was moving. A few climbing perch fish peeked out from behind the underwater grass, making us both squeal with excitement. After a while of observing, the two slowly moved closer to the canal. At first, Han thought the water was shallow, maybe just knee-deep at most. But no, once they got there, she realized it was much deeper. The water reached up to her thighs, icy cold and murky with mud. They stood silently for a few seconds. Then, as if they had planned it all beforehand, Dieuhan leaned over and whispered, "Let's build a dam and drain the water. It'll be easier to catch fish." Han nodded. Without another word, the two quickly split the tasks. They walked along the canal, picking up fallen branches and leaves, then scooped up handfuls of soft mud from the bottom to build small barriers across the flow. The mud was thick and sticky, clinging more and more to their hands and legs with every scoop, but neither of them complained. They kept working section by section, patiently and methodically, like two kids playing with clay, only now exhaustion was slowly creeping into every movement. After about half an hour, the makeshift dam was finally in place. It wasn't very tall or strong, but it was enough to stop the slow current of water. Now it was time to start draining the canal. Han reached for the plastic bucket she had brought, while Dieuhan grabbed a dented aluminum basin. And so, the two of them took turns bailing out the water, scoop by scoop. The water was thick and murky, filled with debris and mud, heavier than they had imagined. About an hour and a half later, the water level had dropped by nearly half. The bottom of the canal was now starting to show slippery with mushy mud, along with little fish fins and tails twitching beneath the surface. Immediately, they dropped the bucket and basin onto the ground, stepped down into the canal together, and got ready for the real fish hunt to begin. Catching fish was far from as easy as they'd imagined. Every time a fish poked its head above the surface, it darted away like an arrow before they could even reach out to grab it, leaving behind a splash of muddy water. The two of them kept crouching low, wading and sloshing through the muddy canal, feeling blindly first to the left, then to the right, sometimes even slipping and falling face first into the muck. But every time they managed to catch one, whether it was a smooth-skinned tilapia or a pitch-black catfish, they would burst out laughing with joy, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. At one point, Han shouted out loud, "Got it! A big catfish!" Dieuhan rushed over to help, and together they tried to hold on to the fish before it could slip away. Its slimy skin was so slick, it felt like it had been greased. They had to use both hands to clamp down tightly before daring to drop it into the bucket on the bank. By now, the sun was high overhead. Under the scorching rays, sweat mixed with mud, and their clothes were completely stained and grimy. But neither of them cared anymore. because when they looked back at their nearly full buckets of fish, both couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. After nearly 2 hours of wrestling with mud and water, they had caught a good amount of fish, tilapia, catfish, and even a few snakeheads, still wriggling in the bucket. Each fish felt like a reward for their patience, for their tireless effort. The two finally climbed up the bank to admire the fruits of their labor. After gathering their catch from the canal, the two looked at each other and nodded, silently agreeing that it was time to take their trophies to sell. Together, they carried the huge plastic basin heavy and slippery, with fish still thrashing about inside. Every step had to be slow and careful, afraid that one misstep would spill the entire basin onto the ground. As soon as they set the basin down on a patch of open land by the roadside, and even before they could lay out a tarp, two passers-by stopped in their tracks. A middle-aged couple, likely on their way back from the fields, peered into the basin and asked, "Oh, you caught all these fish. Are you selling them?" Both Han and Dieuhan were surprised, but quickly smiled politely. "Yes, Uncle, Auntie, we caught them right here in the canal. They're fresh wild fish." Seeing potential customers, Dieuhan dashed off toward home, which wasn't far, to grab a scale and some plastic bags to prepare for selling. Han stayed behind, trying to arrange the fish neatly on a flat bamboo tray for easier browsing. Soon enough, Dieuhan came running back, carrying an old scale and several rolls of plastic bags in various sizes. The two of them began their little roadside fish market, as naturally as if they'd done it many times before. No formal instructions were needed. They each had their role, working in sync like seasoned partners. Han crouched down, picking out fish as requested, gently lifting the net for someone who wanted tilapia, or plunging her hand into the basin for someone who wanted catfish. Her hands were still covered in mud, water dripping down her sleeves, but she handled each task carefully, never keeping a customer waiting. Dieuhan took charge of the money. When Han handed over a fish, Dieuhan would quickly weigh it, call out the number clearly, then state the price. She swiftly packed the fish into plastic bags, tied them securely, and handed them to each customer with a friendly smile. One by one, more people stopped by. As if drawn by some invisible thread, locals from nearby fields or homes came to browse this impromptu market. Some wanted tilapia for its sweet meat, perfect for caramelized stew. Others preferred catfish, saying it was best grilled. A few asked for just a bit of snakehead, praising its firm texture and rich taste. Every exchange, every smile, carried the honest, warm flavor of a rural afternoon. Dieuhan watched the scene unfold with a quiet smile, then turned to help the next customer. The more people came, the more in sync the two girls became. Han always handing over the right type of fish, Dieuhan never miscalculating a single coin. Sometimes they even chatted and laughed with customers as they worked. Laughter and voices rang out in the warm, fading light of the day. The sky gradually darkened from pale yellow to orange, then a fiery red glowing across the horizon. The last rays of sunlight lit up their mud-streaked faces, but their eyes sparkled with the joy that was pure and heartfelt. Eventually, the basin grew lighter. Han looked down. Only a few small fish remained, barely worth much. Dieuhan quietly gathered the empty bags, picked up bits of string and plastic, and folded the scale back into her basket. They looked at each other and smiled, then together lifted the now nearly empty basin. They walked along the dirt road, now tinged with the colors of dusk. Their muddy footprints stretched out along the path, all the way to where the sun dipped behind the bamboo grove at the end of the road. Early the next morning, Dieuhan went out for an errand, while Han stayed home to cook the fish they had worked so hard to catch by draining the canal. She picked out a sharp knife and made a clean cut from the belly to the gills. Her hands moved swiftly, gutting, cleaning, scraping off the slime, then slicing the fish into even pieces. Some of the pieces were neatly arranged into a pot for braising. The rest, Han used to make soup, a sour fish soup with tomatoes, pineapple, and fragrant herbs. Once everything was done, she covered the pots with lids, wiped her hands, and stepped out into the yard. She sat under the old tree, waiting for Dieuhan to return. Han's mind couldn't stop spinning with thoughts about Mr. and Mrs. Chin. Why does Mrs. Chin hate me so much? I haven't done anything wrong. And what was that about tea? Who is tea? Why did Mrs. Chin talk as if she was someone really important? Her daughter, maybe? But if that's true, why have I never seen her since I came here? The questions piled up one after another. Han rested her chin on her hand and let out a long sigh. Should I tell Dieuhan what Mrs. Chin said the other day? And the part about tea, too? Time passed slowly. The sun was now high in the sky. The sunlight grew deeper in color, casting longer shadows toward the west. Then, in the distance, the soft slap of sandals echoed along the dirt road. Dieuhan was back. Han felt as though she had just awakened from a long dream. She jumped up and ran out to greet her. The two of them quickly set the table for lunch. On the small bamboo table, the soft white rice, richly braised caramelized fish, and steaming hot sour soup all came together to create a meal that seemed simple but was filled with the love and effort of both girls. Dieuhan asked, "So, how's your search going, Han? Have you found out anything more about your parents?" Han paused for a moment before replying softly, "To be honest, I've already troubled you too much these past few days. I still haven't found any new leads. Maybe I should go back home? I can always come back once I have more clues." Dieuhan smiled gently, her voice warm. "It's okay. You can stay here. You're already here anyway, aren't you? Let's give it a few more days. If nothing comes up, then we'll figure out what to do next." They both chuckled softly. The atmosphere in the kitchen felt quiet, yet a strange warmth lingered. But inside Han, her heart remained restless. She couldn't stop thinking about what Mrs. Chin had said the other day about the name Tea. That strange name that Mr. and Mrs. Chin spoke of like it was a secret. And then, a sudden unsettling thought struck her. Could it be that Dieuhan is Tea? Would Han have the courage to see this journey through to the end and uncover the truth about her origins? Or would she choose to walk away, return to her village, and bury all her questions in the past? Stay tuned for the next chapter. Could the key to the mystery be right in front of Han all along, and she just hasn't realized it yet?
Trên chiếc bàn tre nhỏ, cơm trắng dẻo với cá kho đậm đà, màu cánh sáng. Canh chua bốc khói nghi ngút, tất cả hòa vào nhau, tạo nên một bữa ăn tưởng chừng đơn giản mà lại chứa đầy yêu thương và công sức của cả hai người. Uyên liền hỏi, chuyện của Hân sao rồi? Đã tìm thêm được thông tin gì từ cha mẹ chưa? Hân hơi khựng lại một chút rồi đáp nhỏ, thật ra thời gian qua đã làm phiền Uyên quá nhiều, tớ vẫn chưa tìm thêm được gì hết. Có lẽ tớ nên về thôi, đợi khi nào có thêm manh mối rồi quay trở lại cũng chưa muộn. Uyên mỉm cười, giọng nói ấm áp. Không sao đâu, Hân cứ ở lại đây, dù gì Hân cũng đã lỡ tới rồi còn gì. Đợi thêm vài hôm nữa, nếu không có kết quả thì tính tiếp. Cả hai bật cười nhẹ, không khí trong bếp bỗng trùng xuống nhưng lại ấm áp lạ thường. Trong lòng Hân chẳng thể nào yên, cậu vẫn không ngừng nghĩ đến lời bà Chí hôm trước về cái tên kỳ lạ mà ông bà nhắc tới như một bí mật. Và rồi Hân giật mình với một suy nghĩ mơ hồ nhưng ám ảnh. Lẽ nào đi chính là Uyên? Liệu Hân có đủ can đảm để tiếp tục đi đến cùng hành trình tìm lại thân thế của mình, hay cô sẽ rút lui về quê chôn giấu mọi thắc mắc vào quá khứ? Hãy cùng mình đón xem phần tiếp theo. Liệu chìa khóa của bí mật có đang ở ngay phía trước mắt Hân mà cậu chưa nhận ra?